Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another groundbreaking episode of the best darn show on the internet, the Sharon Show. I'm really excited today because we are just going to do a free flow form discussion where we're just going to talk about whatever's on the top of our lovely heads. But before we get too far into it, I'm going to bring up today's quote. And
The quote of the
here
day.
she goes. Boom, another Alan Watts quote.
Ah,
This guy's based,
I
or
know.
was based. He's probably not around anymore. You are an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself. Let me read it again.
Mm,
You are an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself. And that is by the lovely Alan Watts.
amazing. That's right.
Amazing Alan. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So we can do alliteration, right?
I love alliteration.
I know you do. You do it a lot on our show names and stuff. And I
Yeah,
it's funny because I noticed because you told me one time that that's what you like to look for that. So
yeah. Like
so
this episode, I
I do
titled it free flow,
notice.
but I could have titled it like free flow, well, another F word, like find a word for discussion, but maybe for the future. Anyway, were you gonna say something?
Um I lost my train of thought. So yeah, the you are the aperture. Um, could it be? That's what we talk about all the time, right?
Yeah.
Could it be?
Could it be? I like that because it plays into several different um ways that everybody likes to explain what's going on here. Several different cosmologies, like
Mm-hmm.
we are God, we are all one. You hear these different things, but the way he puts it, I mean, it's just kind of mind blowing because if we are all one or part of all this stuff, we just have this unique aperture. It's like a bunch of different eyeballs or different like little cameras that the universe is seeing itself through, and we are one of those little cameras, kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
really interesting. Ooh, what deck do you have?
I'm gonna do a Lord of the Rings today because
Oh,
I feel like I haven't pulled from this in a little bit,
yeah.
at
Oh,
least
it's
on the show. Because
what's
I'm
up, Z?
using, yeah, Yo Z. I didn't even say I was so distracted. I haven't even said anything in the chat yet. So
Yeah, no worries. We Zeralath just did a live stream last night. I think it was a live stream, or I know he did a recording with help me out. Sarah laughed at the guy's name. I was just watching it this morning. But this guy makes these videos. He makes kind of like almost like documentary style videos, where there's like information. It's like occult stuff, like um, symbolism and things like that. And here it is. His name is, because I was just watching it earlier. A conversation with Library of the Untold. That's it, Library of the Untold. And I guess the guy just started like 9 months ago, and he already has like 60,000 subs. So it seems like
Nice.
he figured out kind of the algorithm. He was
Mm,
saying, I mean, it's different for like our show, but if you're going to have a show that or some kind of presentation where he makes like little movies and stuff, he's like, you want to get everything out in the first 2 minutes, like let everybody know what you're talking about and let the knowledge out or whatever in the first 2 minutes, and then you go from there or whatever. But that's pretty cool that he was able to get up to 60K.
that's awesome. Okay, so this is hilarious. As you're talking and I'm shuffling this, guess what pops out but the magician?
Oh,
Brandolph the Gray himself. I mean, Gandalf.
Randolph. I'm gonna pin his message right now. So if you guys are watching live, you could just go to the top and click on that and check out his thing later. I love it. Here, you know what? Let me pin you so you could show that again and everyone could
Oh,
see.
yeah, no
Boom, the
worries.
magician. Wow. Yeah, it's funny because in the Rider Waite, the closest looking thing to Gandalf you would think is the hermit, right? It's like a wizardly looking
Right,
guy.
right. But they don't make him the hermit, they make him the magician.
And that's like the first thing I looked for when I got this deck to see
The
what the
card.
and it's actually Bilbo Baggins writing. And I love that because Bilbo Baggins like held up in his little hobbit hole writing with no one around, just being a hermit is perfect for the
That
hermit.
is hilarious.
And
Now,
I
where's
didn't
my
even
little thing?
think of Gandalf being the magician, because I mean he's a wizard, so he works with magic. So that's a really cool insight. I was really excited about that. And you think of the magician, you think of masculine energy, creation, one, the monad, anything that one symbolizes. So I think that's a great card for us today, because not only am I Grandolph,
Grandolph.
maybe that's my new name. I just made it up. I'm Grandolph. Not only am I Brandolph, but what we're doing today, we're kind of just like going for it. It's very like it's a very masculine thing, right? We're just will in motion. We're like we just hit live. We have no idea what we're going to talk about. We might talk about Bigfoot a little bit, but other than that, we have no idea.
Yeah. So may I read from the
Yeah,
whatever you call this thing?
the book.
Scroll. It's not quite scrolled, but says the magician Gandalf the Grey. Wise, valiant, and formidable, Gandalf the Grey understands how to balance his immense abilities with pure intentions. When he appears in your reading, it is to remind you to wield your own power carefully, manifesting your desires without hurting others. What is that? That is the lovely
Golden rule.
golden rule.
Yeah.
Upright, it says, you are equipped with everything you need to succeed, and now it's time to explore your motivation. Are you pursuing are you pursuing your goals for the greater good, honoring your highest self? Then this card is assigned to proceed. However, if the only measure you know is desire for power, then it's time to reassess your plans.
Ooh.
Dude, I'm reading this again. It's so funny. I shuffled the cards and everything. I pulled this for myself the other day. I'm
You
like
pulled
reading it and
magician for yourself the other day?
yes, it was in my reading because I'm reading this now and I'm like, this sounds familiar. And I'm like, that's right. I just pulled it some days ago. All right. While your journey is long, it doesn't mean, oh, this is the reversed. While your journey is long, it doesn't mean you can't stop to rest. Although you are committed to the task at hand, you aren't going to gain any ground if you're too tired to keep going. Well, yes.
That's an important one. A lot of people, especially when they get into this stuff, they just keep going and going and going, and they don't think about either rest or like some kind of activity that has nothing to do with looking into this stuff that you could just do for fun. Like yeah, I get it. Like when I first came across Mark Passio, I just was listening to all his podcasts, starting from podcast one.
Wow. What a
And
feat.
it was like that. I'd like go out and DJ, and then I'd come back home and just start listening and hanging out with my cats and doing things.
Those were your audiobooks back in the day, right?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. It's kind of like an audiobook, honestly. It's almost the same.
Yeah. I mean, podcasts can be that way.
Yeah, certain ones are. Yeah, a lot of synchronicities lately. That's something we could talk about. I just you know how I talk about Y2K all the time anytime someone's like bringing up fear porn, and I'm like, I've been hearing about empty grocery store shelves since Y2K. Well, that show that I watched, the Righteous Gemstones, it's about a family that's like a giant, power preacher that has like huge like stadium and all this stuff, and his wife had died a few years before the show started. And it's about his three kids that are like super spoiled, and it's really good. Danny McBride, who was in that show Eastbound and Down, is one of the sons. He's like the oldest son. He's so funny. But they do flashbacks, which is really cool. So they flash back to the year 2000, and the preacher, who's played by John Goodman, he's the one who's the dad who runs the show. He was married to this lady, and they were doing commercials selling survival food for Y2K. And he's like, Jesus spoke to me himself and told me. And then after, because they're in that year line for 2000, they have to deal with the backlash and everything. So it's really cool. It was like blew my mind, because we always are like, or I'm always talking about the Y2K thing. but it's cool how it illustrates that even for like a normie slash audience, they could see that, oh yeah, look at there's scams running even 20 something years ago about, you know, uh, concerning scarcity, right? The food.
Absolutely.
Anyway, good show though.
Totally. So, just before we went live, you were telling me about um you went out yesterday and
Yeah,
you
but
had
to a
some
concert.
and you yeah, so tell me a little bit about how that went.
Yeah, so I went to see Thievery Corporation is the name of the group. I didn't really know much about them. Elizabeth likes them and will listen to them on occasion because it's really chill. A lot of the songs don't have words though. There's some words, but when you hear the words, it sounds to me like the music kind of reminds me of. It's so hard to explain, but it's like a sample that you just hear the music like
Okay.
one of the songs. It's like so hard to get away. I'll think of it, but anyway, it's just like repeating or whatever. But when they were live, it was great, and they had five different singers that would come out at a different time, and the music's kind of chill, like reggae ish. So they had a few singers that were like more reggae, and like one's like a rapper. But it was really, really interesting experience, and it was cool to be right there. People were looking at me as I was walking like through the crowd. They were looking at me like I was famous. It was so funny. I always get those looks, and I don't. I even said to Elizabeth, I'm like, you see the way that people are looking at me because they give like the look to see like because I
Are
have that.
you a famous person or are
Yeah,
you
I have
just
one of
kind
those
of
faces that looks like it could be famous. I'm like melded in with other either rock stars, especially when I'm at a show or something. It's so funny. I went to see
you I mean, you're close to New York, so you could
yeah,
be like in the area or whatever.
yeah, and there's a lot of celebrities that live in Connecticut as well because there's so much money here. I remember I went to a show in New York City. It was a taping. It was a Comedy Central taping, and Dave Attell, who a lot of people would probably know, not Dave Chappelle, Dave Attell. He's a comedian. He's a white dude though. And he's been around forever. And he was doing a thing where he hosted it, and he had some people that were like newer and up and coming, not new, like but whatever on the scene. And so they were still kind of famous. Judah Freelander was there. Freelander, he was the guy from 30 Rock, that show 30 Rock, and he always would have the trucker hat on, and he had like crazy like a Jufro and all that stuff. He's a really funny guy with glasses. But anyway, so when we were there, there was other comedians that were more famous, like Amy Schumer. I don't know if you ever heard of Amy Schumer or Jeff Ross or who else was there? I can't remember, but they were just watching because they're friends with Dave Attell. So they were kind of in the back and they kept staring over at me at the table I was at because we went to two tapings and one of them we were sitting in the back. One we were dead center right up front. It was great, right for the show. And then the other one we were kind of sitting in the back just at a table and they were near the bar and they kept looking over at me. It was so funny. And my friend, and I didn't even, my friend Dion was like, dude, they keep staring at you. He's like, you should go talk to him. I probably should have.
When was this?
2016-ish, 15,
Okay.
something like that. Because I
It was
still had my
before your hair
mohawk.
was long?
Yeah, I had the mohawk at the time, but it wasn't
Oh,
really tall.
okay.
So maybe that's kind of what it was too. And Dave Attell was making fun of me. It was funny. Ended up on Comedy Central. He was making fun of my mohawk when we were sitting in the front.
That's funny.
So I'm on TV.
That's
Not the
funny.
first time though. Yeah, it was a
That's
cool
cool.
concert. It's the first one Elizabeth and I went to. We haven't been to a concert together yet. I don't.
Okay, but you were saying something about some dudes taking a light bulb and like spinning it or something.
There you go. That's why I love you, Sharon. I totally already forgot about that. So one of the singers, when he was up there, he had because at one point it was just a club atmosphere. It was a pretty big club, but it was just no seats, right? Everyone's just standing up against the stage. So we made our way around to the side of the stage, and right behind us was like the exit door. It was great, maybe 20 feet behind us, and there was no one behind us, and just a few people in the area where we were. We were dead. Like I'll show you some pictures you could see right on to the side of the stage. And so we saw the guy pick up this light bulb and he turned it on, the singer, and as he was singing he started swinging it. It had like a really long cord, and I was watching him. He's like twisting it as you sing it, and it started going over the crowd. Oops. It was really, really cool. And then he brought it back in. He like wrapped around himself till it was maybe 3 feet wide, swinging over his head. Then he brought it in front of him and started swinging it really fast. and I could see it looked like you could see the stages of the moon in the swinging, because you know how it's like an optical illusion. And I even asked Elizabeth that, and it blew my mind. So I told Sharon about that before we started recording, and it made us think of a bunch of things that we wanted to talk about. So actually, I remember Sharon sent me a video. It was like somebody had a video of a disc in water, and I think the
Or
water might have
something
been,
like that. I don't remember the details, but it was something like that.
and I think the water was colored or something. And the way that the flow was going, you could see the different stages of the moon on how he moved it or whatever. But it was a flat disc, but it looked like it was round. So that was crazy. And then what I was saying about seeing all the stages of the moon like that, it makes me think, and that Sharon was thinking the same thing, that the moon, because you know, who knows what the heck that thing in the sky is, if somehow it is spinning and we're only viewing it where it sits right now, if that makes any sense. So imagine if there's a hole in the sky, if you will, or whatever, I don't know, but for some reason we can only see it when it gets to a point. Maybe the way that we see with everything, it has to be lined up exactly, and somehow it's just spinning around. uh I don't know, you know,
And
it just really makes me think.
I thought to myself, um, like outside of this realm in the sense of, time and space. We're in this 3D realm to experience this time, right? Um, but allegedly there's no time and space, and there is no such thing as um time. It's we're all in the present moment, right?
It's an
So
illusion.
we experience this slowness of time, right? You hear people talk about experiences of like having either a near death experience or some sort of weird anomaly where they feel like they've been gone for a very long time, but when they get back it's only seconds later or minutes later. And you hear about things like that, and you feel like it in your dreams. You know what that feels like, because in your dreams, you can feel like you've been gone for a long time, and you wake up and it was just nighttime. And I just remember too, like when people experience um things like um certain natural drugs, right? Herbal things, mushrooms and things like that. And they can feel like they've been gone for
Yeah.
um like in their experience they were gone for
Well,
years.
remember the ibogaine story that we had somebody
Yes.
tell on here about days and weeks that they felt like they
Yes.
were gone? Yeah.
Months, years,
They were living like a
decades,
whole their life. Yeah.
decades. And then they come back and they were just gone for several hours, maybe a day or however long the trip was. That so anyway, it made me think like we are in this consciousness that we're experiencing, we see things maybe slowed down. So um what
Yeah.
if it's really going really fast outside of us, like, and we don't realize it because when we're intentionally slowed down, which makes me think, I didn't say this to Brandon, but it makes me think of the spinning ball. Because
Mm-hmm.
what if we are, but we can't perceive it because we're in this time capsule of sorts of where we're experiencing it very, very slowly. So
And if,
anyway, I don't know. I just had some
no,
odd
I
thoughts about
like
it.
that. Also, if you think of the toroidal field theory, how we're just like a, because we're kind of as a person or whatever, man or woman, you're a toro, you're a field, a toroidal field. You get it. I can't say it.
Toroidal
Field
field. Yes.
field.
Yes.
And I get so excited. I'm like, yeah.
Ah.
And if you think about it, one of those fields is just like it's an inside out circle kind of. It's like two head, because it's going like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Up top, and
From
then
the top
the
of you.
bottom, the same
Yeah.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's like
I
an
mean,
apple.
yeah, it's like an apple. So you're seeing the inside of the circle. So if somehow this thing was like rotating around whatever that the field is, and we could only see the top of it, because that's what we experience with our aperture. as Alan Watts would say.
There you go.
I think that it is possible. But again, these are the kind of mysteries that we like to just ponder, but we don't like to get locked into any one idea because it's a mystery. And
Right, right.
we here
It's
at the
fun to
Oversharing
ponder.
Show like love to embrace mysteries.
Right. Speaking of mysteries, I've been looking a lot. Not that I intentionally do this because Cody likes to listen to Sasquatch
What up, Cody? By the
stories.
way, he was in the chat. Sorry. Hey, Cody.
Yes.
And what
Um,
up, Blue Kachina, Io Walks, Kirk, Dissident Jones,
yeah,
Zeralath.
9 peeps
Oh,
right now. So hello and
sweet.
welcome. So I've been listening to them by proxy, kind of. I don't necessarily play them, but he'll be playing them and I'll hear them. And just so fascinating. Um, you have tons of names for them, tons of people experiencing different looking creatures wherever they're at, depending on their location. Some people call them Sasquatch, Bigfoot, skunk ape, Yeti. There's so many names. I can't even think of them all. But some of the interesting things about them is, they can be in different colors. Some people see them like dark hair, like dark brown or black almost. Some people see them red haired, and some people see them like white or gray. Um, and like from the episodes I've listened to of all these different podcasts he listens to, some will report them that they look more animal or behave more animal like, and some that they're more human. And they'll feel this almost like human like thing where they won't want to do anything because it feels like they'd be harming a human. Like if they even have like a weapon on them or something, they don't, like, they freeze and they can't even move, basically. um and these creatures are like, I don't know, anywhere between 7 or 10 feet tall, that's been reported, the ones that I've listened to at least. And by no means, I've not listened to that many. But except for the little ones and the babies, those are smaller, but still pretty big for being small and babies. um yeah, just different odd things reported about them, and the things that they do, like um tree knocking, which I'm not exactly sure what that means, but they've been heard to like making snapping sound, like snapping trees in half or whatever.
Well, tree
um
knocking is because I used to be pretty big into these Bigfoot shows anyway.
mhm.
It's these people going to the woods or whatever, and they hear like someone hitting a tree with like a stick or a rock or something. And it's just like a solid thump.
Okay, so making those loud noises, yeah, making loud noises in general, I mean, to scare people away, I guess, too. And throwing rocks and things, just objects at people. um some people have been told not to whistle when they're in those areas because it either attracts them or it draws them in.
Mm.
um and then, I've heard stories where these things are curious. If you like live next to the woods or even, kind of close-ish, they'll go to your window and they'll like look at you, and like they're curious creatures. um so it's like, that's fascinating because it's like they're curious but they're so elusive too at the same time. um and there are things like, it seems that fishermen are more of a target than hunters. There's a lot of stories of fishermen that are kind of scared away because maybe they're encroaching upon their feeding grounds or something. And maybe they like fish more than they like, you know, creatures like deer and stuff. Who knows?
They're
But like,
pescatarians.
yeah. But like you'll also hear stories about animals being torn apart in these grotesque, weird ways. And like, there's no other animal that could have done that around. Um, like something with opposable thumbs has to have that. ability, right? But what I found kind of fascinating was that people report, most people report being so PTSD scared by this thing that like while it's happening, they like have no capacity to really do anything. They're just like in a complete state of shock. They can't really process a lot sometimes, or like I don't know if it's an energy that the Sasquatch sends out that's like don't you dare touch your weapon to try to harm me or whatever. I don't know what it is, but like they just freeze. And even if they thought that they would be the type to like, they're carrying their, you know, they're packing heat and they can use it at any moment if anything were to happen, if they were threatened, but they can't. Like they physically can't even do it. Or if they physically can, they're mentally unable to, because at least the stories we hear, right? Maybe there's stories of people that I haven't heard yet that have shot at them and stuff. But from what the stories I've heard, I haven't really heard one yet that does talk about that. Um, but yeah, I just think it's kind of amazing that this energy field, and sometimes you hear stories about people wanting to take a picture and the phone is dead. And when they walked into the forest, the phone had like 99% or 80%, and like their phones are dead, whatever, their cameras, nothing works. It's like this like dead zone of energy or something. Like the Sasquatch won't let them use the technology or something. Yeah. And another interesting thing that I found about these people that report these encounters is like they'll have and these are just like normal men who are like hunters, and like you would think they're like the strongest person, right? And something like that wouldn't freak them and flip them out, but it does. Like they have emotional breakdowns and experiences. They'll go home and they can't go to work for days. They'll call in sick. They just can't even process. Um I I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's like a wake up call to them, you know? Like I don't know. What do you think about that?
I've heard so many different theories and ideas. And by the way, what up, Robo Honky? He says fear is the mind killer. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And that does play into it.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that too, but go ahead.
Yeah, for shizzle. I've also heard people talking about how it could be like an interdimensional being or something like that. But as you were talking, I was thinking, what if it's not interdimensional? What if the people are actually going to another dimension, and maybe that's why their cell phones don't work and their cameras don't work and shit. But it
Mm,
looks so close to this dimension or whatever. You know how we were just talking about the moon, how you get where you could
mm-hmm,
like step outside of
mm-hmm,
time. Maybe
mm-hmm.
it's the same thing where you kind of step outside of time and you're just not realizing it. And the Bigfoot, that could be it. But I've also heard, and people I know have seen footprints. I had a friend that lived up in the mountains and in the Appalachian Mountains, and I went to visit him. It's basically there were other houses on his street, but you had to like go down the street and then it turned into a dirt road and there was a gate. You had to like unlock the gate and drive down like a mile. And his driveway was there, and his nearest neighbor was probably like a half a mile down the road, and it was like a mountain and woods. And he's told me that one time when it snowed really bad, he had to walk out. He had to leave his car where that gate was I was talking about and walk to his house and then walk back. And I think he said he went to work and came back and he saw these footprints, like giant footprints in the snow, bare feet. And then you also would hear things around his property, like you were saying, the wood knocking or just different noises and stuff like that. So, and you see the pictures of the footprints, and people have like casts and stuff. that are documented from what I've seen on television. I mean, who knows if that's real or not? But I think enough people have gotten evidence, physical evidence. So that would lead me to believe that something is going on here. But like you said, or like you were kind of alluding to, maybe it is a vibrational thing. Maybe you can only see it when you're on a certain vibration. It could be like a shadow. Maybe it's connected to your shadow
Mm.
and it's like a messenger. Maybe it's an angel. I mean, I really don't know. I'm pretty much open to anything on this. Or maybe there is really just some kind of creature that has lived here so long and it's able to hide from people and it purely is just physical. Or also perhaps there was a race of beings here before humans. You know, they think of like the elves in Lord of the Rings or whatever, like a forerunner race, and there's still either some left over or they could somehow become matter and then go back to spirit, and they become matter around certain people. I'm pretty open to all these things. What do you guys think in the chat? And then Sharon, you could also share what you were.
Yeah. I was gonna just continue to say some things about the people and their encounters. But yeah, like people like that, they'll be like, let's say a hunter, an avid hunter who was like hunted all their life and like everything, like didn't even believe that there was such a thing and would have scoffed at it, would have laughed at the thought of it. And then they see it and they stop hunting. It freaks them out. They can never go back to the woods like that. Um they they hold it in. They don't tell anyone for years. They may have experienced it. Maybe some people have experienced stuff when they were younger. And then, they're on the show now telling somebody 30 years later, and they never told a soul, or maybe they told one or two people that they trusted, but that's it. Or here's the weird thing. Sometimes they'll have an experience with someone, like they'll both see it or something like that, but then they'll never speak to each other about it.
Yeah.
And like they'll be on the call doing the interview, and then they'll be talking about it and they're like, yeah, and I was with my friend or my, whatever, and this happened and we never spoke of it to this day. They'll be like, to this day, or like, until the other day when someone mentioned something, blah blah blah, but like years and years go by and they don't speak of it. It's so bizarre. um
Sounds like UFO sightings too that I've heard about.
right, right. Like my brother, so Cody was asking my brother one time and my brother-in-law about, if they'd seen anything, if they'd ever had any encounters. And my brother told a story about when he was like, he said he had to have been like 4 years old, maybe. And then my sister, his, no, older than him by 4 years, they were sitting in the back of my dad's car, um, or on the hood or some on the trunk or something, whatever, in the back. And they were facing the street and they were just like, whatever, with neighbors. And all of a sudden, like right in front of them, across the street, one appears. And my brother said he and my sister never spoke of it to each other.
Whoa.
I mean, talk about weird.
Yeah, that's strange.
Yeah.
That's another reason why I'm led to believe that it's some kind of individual experience for each person. And I wonder if people see different things.
Yeah.
This two, like me and you were there and we're looking and it's, we both described something different, or, if it hits us where we are vibrationally, and then maybe some people won't even see it at all.
Could be. But I guess I haven't really, I'll have to listen for those kind of encounters to see if there's stories are reported differently. But yeah. Then there's these like weird stories about, like I was saying, people that like can't even get the gumption up to like even shoot it to defend themselves, right? Because they feel like they're being attacked or they feel like they're being chased or whatever. Then there are these people that report that they know of, either through personal experience or they know people who have gone to hunt these things and have taken their bodies, you know, the powers that think they be,
Oh, so
doing
I
stuff.
think like maybe the government or somebody's like
Yeah.
sending out teams of people to hunt these things. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of things like that too. So I'm just like that, I guess they are physical beings, some of them. Um, yeah, it's just odd because there's so many different types of encounter stories. And then you have the stories by that guy from the I forgot what his channel name is, but it's like Can-Am missing 411 Can-Am project or something like that. Can-Am is short for like Canada and America. And he does his best to do the research for like missing people in all these like parks and stuff like that. And like missing people that just disappear with very, very strange um you can't
Circumstance.
like unexplained type stuff,
Yeah.
circumstances. Yeah. um
Hmm.
Things that don't make sense. And then he's collected a lot of these stories, and he kind of has put together these kind of metrics of like things that they kind of seem to have in common sometimes, and not all of them hit all the buttons, but a lot of them are like they're near big boulder fields, and they'll happen after like a separation from a group. Like if you're in a big group and you're in the woods or whatever, and then you just get separated, that's usually when those encounters happen. And
Mm.
then sometimes um there's definitely like a weather event that happens that prevents people from like being able to do a thorough search and like find people. And like it's just weird, a lot of weird anomalies that these things kind of have in common. So could these be related to snatchings from by a Bigfoot? Who knows? I don't know, but these are they're all kind of interesting and bizarre. Yeah, Dave Politis, Spoons likes Dave Politis too. So when Cody and Spoons met in person, they were like, "Do you know Dave Politis?" So they were like all excited because they like these kind of stories.
Yeah. I mean, what you're describing, it is possible what we were saying about some kind of being that's just, maybe it's between the 30, the 3D and the 4D or whatever, how people explain that. Maybe it can go into energy. So it just manifests for certain people. Maybe they're like predators and they have camouflage, and then sometimes it malfunctions and they're like, oh shit. And maybe it happens more around fishing equipment because something to do with fishing equipment like messes up their technology. I don't know, but
Yeah, some
that's the
people
thing, right? Like, what I was going to say, the reason I said that was because I'm going back to that show, The Righteous Gemstones, but I like it because they'll show different scenes. Like you'll see a scene from the point of view of one character and those group of characters. And then later, a couple episodes later, they show you from the other side. And one of the scenes they come across is just like this crazy, looks like a murder scene. I don't want to give like too much away, but it's just nuts. And then like a few episodes later, they finally show it. And it's crazy because you make all these assumptions. And that's what I think what people do when it comes to Bigfoot or any of these things. We have all these givens already in the back of our head, these assumptions that we make because of the way we grew up with like the materialistic brainwashing or whatever. And because of that, we make these certain assumptions, especially about physical, but who knows what the heck is around us. Or when we talk about how our line of sight, we can't even see all the colors of the spectrum and certain things that could be, or we can't hear everything. So who knows what the heck these things are. and maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's got some kind of crazy technology, and it's intelligent. It just maybe can't speak like we can. Just, like dolphins, or they say, are pretty much just as intelligent as humans almost, but they just have no way to communicate like we do. Um, I mean, they have their own communication styles, obviously, but they have no way to directly communicate with humans, really. So yeah, maybe it's something like that, because people, we just have this belief that we're the ultimate,
Only, yeah.
right? We're the top of the food chain or whatever. We're like the most advanced of all the animals and all of the beings. But maybe we're just wrong about that. Who knows? Maybe in the next life we'll come back as Bigfoots and we get to attack. I almost came as a Bigfoot this time. Next time.
You were darn close.
I was close. And then we could
Look at all that hair.
I know. It's so funny you say that, because I went up the other day. I was sleeping. I went to go to the bathroom and I happened to have no clothes on. Sometimes I sleep naked, sometimes I sleep with clothes. But I was just, doing my business, and I looked in the mirror, and I could see the hairs like halfway down almost to my butt. And I'm like, you know what? I should just grow out my hair, because it was a little chilly in the house in the middle of the night. Not too bad, but
And it'll cover you.
my neck and everything the hair covered was warm. I'm like, I could just grow my hair down to my knees and live in my hair. That might be a bit I could do, but that would be great. And who's to say I couldn't? Like,
I mean, you could. You could
who's
do
gonna
whatever
stop
you
me? No
want.
shirt, no shoes, no service. Be like, I got my shirt right here. Like,
Meanwhile, I'm trying to trim it because it's like driving me nuts again.
I just want to live in my hair. I think that would be great. But yeah, so maybe I'll come back as a Bigfoot next time, and I'll get to harass fishermen. Who knows? And it's funny because people, so they get these facts, right? Like, there's Bigfoot sightings and they seem to harass fishermen a lot. So they make this conclusion logically, oh, then Bigfoot, maybe they eat fish. But who knows? Maybe Bigfoot communicate with fish and they're friends with them. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things we don't know, and we don't know what we don't know. Uh, so I'm open to
Well,
all kinds of possibilities.
this is an interest. You said fish and made me think of a story that I heard. I can't remember all of the story, but the story kind of went like this. There were these kids fishing, and then they'd gotten their fish, and their dad was like, just wait, leave them. Why don't you just leave them still in the water, like keep them hooked up or whatever, but just leave them in the water, and we'll just wait for whatever reason. And when they came back, the fish were eaten up, but I think like their heads and their bones were like lined up on the shore, like from largest to smallest, like do like that. But like they were all eaten, but their little like skeletons were
Wow.
left there on the shore, like all lined up like that. And it's like when they told their dad, he was like, oh, it must have been some raccoon or something. And they're like, but raccoons wouldn't necessarily be so smart to just like, why would they do that? Like, what would be the reason for their doing that? That
They're circus
doesn't make
raccoons.
sense.
There were circus raccoons. They were trained, and then they got out into the
Oh
wild. Yeah.
my God. But yeah, like you were talking about what you were saying, and most people describe their encounters like as these creatures being like a physical manifestation, right? But then some people will say, well, they disappeared and like I turned my head and they were gone. So like, and like it's not like they heard any noise, like something ran away or something. They're just like they turn and they're gone. So I don't know if they just camouflage right back into where they are, and then, or are they just, can they potentially be very quiet when they need to be and only make the sounds when they need to scare people off? um but who knows, could they be both physical and spiritual beings, and they manifest as spiritual when they need to and manifest as
Go in
spirit
and
when they
out.
need to, you know what I mean? Like, are they, like we were talking earlier, are they time space travelers of some sort? Could they be? I don't. And could it be different for each type? Like maybe some, like I kind of was thinking of, made me think of the law of one, and I want to like see if there's any mention of such creatures by the raw contact or the whatever,
The entity.
um yeah, the entity named Ra, um and whoever else, like, just what llresearch.org, I think, is the website where you can go do searches. But it made me wonder, like, what are they classified as? Like, how we've talked about animals, and it's funny because I've been reading the books I've been reading kind of like mention this stuff too, but animals, like, sorry, the law of one talks about the 7 densities, right? So you have, like, whatever's first density would probably be like rocks and water or something, and the second density would probably be all the ranges of um plants, right? Anything that's a plant, from a small tiny little plant to a big tree, right? And then the next, or I would say maybe it's plants and animals, or I don't know, maybe rocks and plants are in the first stage and animals are I don't know, but maybe it's like a spectrum.
Yeah,
But
spectrum.
whatever. So animals at some point, right, are probably second density, I'm gonna guess. And so at which, like, spectrum of the density of 2D are the Sasquatch? Maybe they're at the very end. Like, maybe they're about to become human. I don't know.
Or
Because
maybe
they're
it's the other way around.
or the other way around.
Maybe they're ahead of us. We would never think that because they're covered with hair and they can't speak
Exactly.
allegedly, but that's
Right.
just our own misconception. We don't,
Right. Exactly.
we always
Yeah.
talk about, remember, we used to talk about this all the time about speech and telepathy
Mm-hmm.
and how
Mm-hmm.
maybe we used to be,
Dude, holy crap. Maybe you're right. Keep going.
and how speech might not even be necessary. It might be just a
Yes.
function of the ego.
Some people experience telepathy when experiencing Sasquatch. They'll feel things, they'll, like, hear things, or like have a feeling of, like, get out, leave, go away. Like, they have the feeling. It's almost like a telepathic thing that they have. Or
Mm.
they'll have this eerie feeling or whatever that they constitute as eerie because they're going into an area where they're there. And maybe these Sasquatches, they sense your energy. And if your energy is not going toward alignment with theirs, could it be they push back because you are not necessarily ready to experience them? And maybe they show themselves to you because maybe it's a wake up call to you to recognize that there is this, like, otherworldly, other dimensional realm that you can't really comprehend until you comprehend it, until you, like, experience it.
Or maybe they're there all the time and we can only see them, like you said, either they show themselves to us or maybe it's just the all or the universe or our higher selves just knows that that having that experience is something that we need to go through for our dharma or whatever.
Yeah.
uh,
And
yeah.
I was also going to say, like, there's this concept that I heard through Michelle's Healing Home when she had on, like, a Sasquatch expert type person on. And this was, like, pretty recently. And it's funny because when she had that, when she um, sent out the note that she was going live with someone talking about that, I was like, that's hilarious. That's something I've been wanting to talk about on my show too. It was kind of a jinx, kind of a sync. But um, that lady was talking about these peaceful encounters with them, like these intentionally planned events where you intend to be in harmony and peace with these creatures. And they've experienced so many cool things, including, like, being gifted things and like things that, how would that creature know that they needed that, or that they wanted something like that, or that, you know, just, and things that were very old too sometimes, like where would they have gotten that? That's like from the 19 whatevers, or that's from whenever. And it's like, how did they bring that to me at this campground or wherever they're going, right? At this specific moment, how did they know that I would want that, that I needed that, et cetera, et cetera? It's so old. Where did it come from? Do they keep these things stashed somewhere? Do they like, or did they just find something at the random moment and it just a sync that they brought it to you? It's just really interesting things like that,
Or are they
which
traveling time?
that's what they suggested too. They're like, could it be maybe they were traveling through time and they went into the past, grabbed it and brought it back, that sort of thing. And it's very fascinating for sure. But this whole concept of like interacting with them peacefully, you don't hear from them as encounters that are bad encounters. They have these good encounters with them. Like they don't experience any of this negativity that other people experience. Um, so it's just, to me, it's like that, bringing back that whole topic of fear, which is, I know, maybe gets old, but really, like, it's the people that flip out and freak out, are they're the ones that have these um encounters that they fear, you know. They don't want to go back to the woods. Uh they feel that the Sasquatch was scaring them away, was trying to run after them or whatever. um and I, like I said, I wonder if it's the Sasquatch's energy, their energy not mixing. And so they, maybe the Sasquatch pushes back in this seemingly maybe childish way of like throwing rocks and like making loud noises for them to leave. Um, but potentially they could be way more spiritually advanced than even we are, which that makes a lot more sense actually.
Yeah, and if you think about vibrational things, like we were talking about, you were talking about fear, which never gets
Is a
old.
vibration.
Yeah, or even it's possible that these people needed to see something that would just blow their whole scene and show them that this world isn't exactly what they thought it was or what they were told. Even if they don't really do anything with that information, we never know how it affects their lives or their decisions and everything from then
Absolutely.
on. Even
Absolutely.
if they don't say, like you're saying, they wait for years,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it just opens them up to something else and they end up becoming more spiritual because of it. Or, who knows? Like we said, there's mysteries. And I think that's where people go wrong. Like when you're investigating things like this, when you're investigating Bigfoot and stuff, it's really cool to have all this evidence. But once you start to try to build your own theory, which is still cool, but you kind of start to get married to it, I think that's where people go wrong. And like I said, just as simple as it's a physical thing, because we're not even physical things. So how could we think that Bigfoot is a physical thing? And like we were saying, maybe it just has some kind of different way of moving through this realm. And it's
Mm.
like a different dimension. Say if we're in 3D, maybe it's a 4D.
Maybe
So we
it's,
just can't even,
yeah, or getting close to it.
yeah, we're getting close to it. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, great points there. Um, but yeah, speaking of kind of that, um, that's what kind of is fascinating too, because I remember somewhere someone said that they received like a telepathic message from these creatures saying that they have always been here and they've been trying to communicate with us or something like that, to tell us whatever. I don't remember the details, but that
What's
stuck
the
out to me.
plan? The world is perfect. They're like trying to
Yeah.
whisper to people. don't worry about work. Go out and like,
Be in nature. Except if you're in antithesis, if you're opposed to our beautiful harmony.
yeah, yeah. Get your fishing pole out of here. You're all that, maybe it's the fishing line. They get the Bigfoot. That's their weakness. They get caught up because they can't see fishing line. So they get mad at fishermen.
Hmm.
But I like that idea. It's cool to ponder that. And I mean, I don't know what I would do if I had an experience like that. I guess I would just try to be as open as possible and try to keep the fear as much as possible out of the way.
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
Well, okay.
because like it would suck to just disappear. But if I had to go out and people knew it, like to be killed by a Bigfoot, that'd be a pretty cool way to go out. You know what I mean? Like he got ripped apart by a Bigfoot. They were wrestling for a while. He was holding his own, but
Oh my God.
but if I was just gonna like to disappear, that would suck because all the people around you, like they don't have
Yeah.
closure. They have no idea what
Yeah.
happened to you. Yeah. So
Well, some of those weird Bigfoot encounters are, or sorry, I should say, missing 411 cases. There are times where, like, let's say a little kid goes missing, right? And they're looking everywhere. They've done so many searches up and down, back and forth, and then out of nowhere, one day they'll find a pair of shoes just sitting there. Like, we searched this place multiple times. Where did these, how all of a sudden are these shoes here? Whatever. They'll find things like that. And then, somewhere else they'll find a backpack. Oh, that was the dude's backpack. What's it doing here? Like, or like they'll find stuff that was carried miles away. And it's like, this little kid couldn't have walked that far, or this person was would have been under snow, like tons of snow, because there was a weather event. So there was no way this person could have gotten this far. So how are his clothes up here? It's just odd things like that. Um, that made me think of that when you were talking about being ripped apart by a Bigfoot.
that would be
But but yeah, there's one story that I recently heard that really stuck out to me. And I'll share it, but I won't remember all the details, so I'll tell you the episode number, which I'll have to listen to myself too, because I only listened to the clip of it, which was like a Christmas episode where he had the audience pick the favorites. So the story is that this guy, um, at some point he's in these woods or whatever, and he sees, like, I think he hears a scream or a cry or something, and he turns and he sees a like, at the time, of course, he's like doesn't know what he's looking at, but he sees a baby Sasquatch in the tree, and like he's stuck or something, right? And he kind of is like, I really want to be able to help that baby creature, but I don't even know what I would do. Like, how would he try to hit me? Would he try to hurt me? I don't know. Like, and he's pondering, like, should I do this? Should I not? And he eventually sees two other creatures, both female, one a younger one, and then another one approach. And then he's just kind of, I don't remember, like, remember, I don't know the details, but he's kind of like flipped out a little bit by it. And then I don't know how he ends up leaving, but he leaves. And I don't remember the details of why he came back, or why. I think he probably was like, what did I see? Whatever. He probably came back at some point. And whenever he would sometimes see this one lady just around there. And at some point she leaves something on his truck, or somehow she makes a communication with him. And then the story goes, he ends up talking to her, and she takes him to she eventually says, you should come and stop by. Because she said something like, they told me to they told me that you saved the baby. Thank you for saving the baby, or something. And he's like, how would you know that? And she's like, they told me that you like that they were grateful that you didn't hurt the baby and that you saved him or something like that. And he's like, that's like really bizarre. And she's like, you should come visit me sometime. I live in that house right there or whatever. And he's like, okay. So at some point later, he decides he's going to go visit her. Well, the house smells, bad, like, skunky, and they're talking and stuff. And later on, I think she has muffins, and and two babies from upstairs come down and have muffins or something, like living in her. And she told him, yeah, I communicate with them. I've been communicating with them for like, I think since the 70s or something like that. And I'm just like, smokes, this is so bizarre. This lady ends up being like a babysitter for these Sasquatches, because sometimes the parents have to go hunt, and they'll hunt as far as like even 50 miles from that location, because someone said that they'd seen them or they saw them at some other place, or I can't remember the details, but they will go far to hunt. And so she'll watch the babies on those nights when they're out, and and they stay with her, and until they're so big they can't fit in the house. And she said she's raised a lot of, not raised them, but like she's taken care of a lot of them in the since the 70s. And to me, I'm just like, that story just like blew me away, because there are people who talk about the other extreme, right? But then there's this extreme of like, I'm friends. And he asked her, I think he's asked her, like, what did she think of them or what they were or whatever. And she just said, they're my neighbors. She just called them her neighbors. And
Love your
I
neighbor
think,
as yourself.
yes, isn't that crazy? And then he said that at one, he visited a few times and got to talk to her about a lot of things. And mind you, he's like, sometimes I don't even remember everything she told me, but there was a point where he saw the papa, the big one, and he was talking to this lady. The lady and him were talking. She was like making hand gestures or whatever. He said it wasn't like a sign language, but they did use hand gestures. And I think that they used like clicking sounds or something potentially, but she was able to communicate with them.
Wow.
And this is the funniest part. This is the hilarious part. She said they freaking love SpongeBob. She said that she has a TV outside or whatever, and sometimes she'll just turn it on, and then you'll see all these eyes in the forest, like watching it.
That's great. So what we need to do is just go into the woods with some SpongeBob.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was gonna make a joke when you said it smelled like the guy went in there and it smelled like skunky. I'm like, maybe she just had some really good weed.
Well, I said skunky, but it's just because they call him a skunk ape, but people just say it's a really bad smell. And
Yeah,
they,
like a
I'll
body odor.
describe it differently.
Yeah, I think the in the Florida is where the skunk ape from according to the documentaries and TV shows that I used to watch, Florida was the place where they had the skunk ape, and that's where the one that smelled really bad was. I'm sure there's other ones that smelled bad too, but that's when they were reporting on it or whatever. And also, it was seen to have red hair. And if you think of orangutans, and I guess there is even evidence of orangutans being in the at some point being in the Everglades. So and also, orangutans are very intelligent. You could teach them how to drive. Like the orangutans are the ones, if you ever see the meme with the monkey driving the golf cart with the big face, like that's an orangutan. They had a movie with Clint Eastwood in it. It was like Every Which Way But Loose, I think it was called. And the orangutan, his name was Clyde, and he would drive. And Clint Eastwood would be like, right turn, Clyde. And he would shoot his arm out to like signal right turn, but he did that when he wanted him to punch people too. It was really funny. But anyway, so perhaps it is something to do in with the ape family. I mean, I really don't know. But what I was thinking with the smells, because if you think of the skunky smell, you also have weed that kind of smells terrible like that, but also mushrooms have that same kind of smell. And
Oh,
both
do
of them
they?
are like these plant medicines or plant whatever that will take you to, or they adjust your aperture in a certain way, right? And you see things differently when you're high or when you're on these
Mm. Mm-hmm.
substances. So maybe it has something to do with that too. Maybe that
That's
smell,
very interesting.
and maybe there's something to skunks that we don't know either. Maybe skunks are like interdimensional creatures because they do freaking
Well,
come out of nowhere, dude.
that's the funny part is because like I never knew I don't really know what a skunk looks like because I don't think I've ever really seen one in real life. But
Oh,
like I know what a skunk smells like because I I've smelled it and would say that's what a skunk like that's a skunk smell. And they'd be like, "Oh, it's a skunk." But I also know how weed smells and sometimes weed smells like skunk. So, but the thing is around here, you'll smell something and you know it's not weed, but you're like it smells like a skunk. But where's the skunk? There's no skunk around. So where like did it is it like elusive? Like is it like a Sasquatch or is it a Sasquatch?
and if you think about skunks in general, they don't really live in the woods. Like if I we live out here near the woods here in Canton, and I used to see more skunks in Milford, Connecticut, which is like, yeah, there's some woods around, but it's mostly suburbia, right? So you see raccoons and skunks a lot more in suburbia where people live. So I
Right,
wonder if
you hear about them more where people live in the suburbs.
in the way
They
that we kind
raid
of view,
trash cans
if you think about fish falls, which we've talked about before, which fish being rained from the sky in different species of fish, or sometimes just
or
all one
insects
species,
or whatever.
or insects or certain things coming down. Maybe the realm has a way of replenishing certain life here, even humans. I mean, some human civilizations have been said to, it looks like they just popped into
Appeared.
existence,
Yeah.
appeared, right? Already with a culture
And then
form,
some disappear too.
and some disappear. Think of what is it,
The
the
Mayans or the
or
Olmecs
the
or whatever the
Incas,
heck thall those
Incas
Aztecs,
maybe.
Mayans,
Yeah,
Incas, whatever.
one
Those,
of
some of
them.
those.
What's going on in the chat? Yeah, no, I totally think 100%. Somebody said oh, NB Austin, I already, or Nick, he said, "Are you guys live?" And I'm like, "We're live, 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 live."
Yeah.
He did
Um,
ask. Oh, okay. I was going to say the Dilatov Pass incident. I don't know if I've heard of that before.
yeah, and Cody said to look up the story of Albert Ostman. I've never heard of that, so I wrote it down.
Sweet. Maybe we'll look into this and talk about it more in the Oversharing show. But I do feel like it is something that we have no idea. What's up, Joe? Giuseppe
Yeah.
Cosmic Life is in
Giuseppe.
the
I'm
Giuseppe.
learning Italian.
Hey,
Italiano.
molte bella, tutti frutti, molte bene.
Un caffè, per favore. That was my lesson
Allora.
last night in my Italian Duolingo.
Oh, you're
I
learning
decided to
Italian?
open up Duolingo and learn Italian. I'm
Wait, what's
also trying to learn a little bit of Hungarian and yeah, because Hungarian is one of those languages that's like they say it like has no other relation to friggin' anything else, allegedly. And I'm just like, whenever somebody makes a claim like that, I'm like, I'm gonna go ahead and say I don't believe you right now.
well, they say that about the Basque
The
language,
Basque, the Finnish, and the Estonian, I think.
Finnish, Phoenician.
Yeah.
Could it be Phoenician? I know that old world Florida and excuse me, the guy that has the same exact birthday as me, except for the year, archivist.
Mm.
They talk about that.
Oh, he
So
has the same birthday as you,
yeah, July 2nd.
archivist dude.
Whoop, whoop. Same born day, except a different year. I think he's younger than me a little bit. Yeah. And he's tall like me too. Maybe he should have been a Bigfoot too. I should contact him. And actually, I think he
Yeah.
does kind of have long hair. I'm like, grow your hair, dude. We're birthday brothers. So,
Yeah. Dove sono il gabinetto? That's what Robo says. Where is the cabinet? I'm gonna guess. I don't know. I don't know enough Italian, but
Amberson says, ironically, it's Bigfoot insurance that covers my tiny house.
that's
Nice.
funny. Oh yes, Quentin says, ever heard of the Solomon Islands? That is an interesting point because so I don't know if you remember Rob Skiba, who used to do all the flat earth stuff. And he also used to talk a lot about the giants of old, whatnot. And um he was trying to start this series for a long time of a show that he wanted to create, and it was going to be based on the Solomon Islands, but based on um, accounts of just strange activities of things like craft coming out of caves or out of the water and going back into the water, and like just bizarre type of stuff. That's all I remember about it. But yeah, thanks, Quentin, for the reminder. That I
We should fund an over Sharon show trip to the Solomon Islands.
Oh my god.
We'll bring SpongeBob.
Find
I'll get a big
Sasquatch.
SpongeBob costume.
They sell those big plush, you know, toys.
That'd be hilarious.
And Patrick
Robo Hockey
Star.
says, I think it's where the bathroom is. I think it's where is the bathroom. That's interesting.
Oh,
I should really
that's
what is it
hilarious.
that you're looking at? Is this an app that I have no idea about?
Oh, to learn a language?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's an app called Duolingo, Duolingo. It's free with ads, so like you can play as long. It's like a game. They gamify it, so you can learn and then like get trophies for like winning and
I should learn
competitions.
Espanol because I already have a pretty good base of it and I
Dude,
could
just do it. Just do it. It's so
do it.
easy. You just yeah. And the thing is, what I like about Duolingo, which I also hate about it, is that it makes me do it every day because I'm like, shoot, I'm going to be dropped into the bottom level, the next bottom level. Like, I need to stay in my diamond league. I need to stay making all my points, all my stars,
Yeah, yeah.
or whatever, my coins. So, so it makes you do it, right? It makes you come back
Oh, that's
almost
cool.
every
I like
day,
that.
right? But it's good because you're learning something, um
That
that's
reminds me of I was gonna say really quickly, which is really cool. This is kind of gonna be a commercial, but I switched to T-Mobile prepaid because it's $25 a month and that's it. You get like 30 gigs of data, it's unlimited or whatever. And I was
You're
paying
on T-Mobile now. What were you
I
before, Verizon?
no, I had I'm sorry, Boost. I switched to Boost. I had
Oh, okay.
T and
Oh,
it
okay.
was like $60 or whatever, but I
Oh,
don't have
okay.
a family plan or whatever. So I think Elizabeth is part of a family plan with her mom and stuff, and it's real cheap, so she just sends her money for it. But I tried to suggest that to my dad a couple years ago when I was living there, and he thought I was up to like some kind of scam or something. I'm like, dude, just add me. I'll just send you the $25 a month. So anyway, I figured out Boost Mobile, and but they have this app, and every day, if I remember to do it, you can go in and spin, and you have a spin, and it's from 5 cents to like maybe $5 that you can get off your bill. So I try to do it as much as I can. And every time you log in, also every day you get 5 cents. And for other things too, you get like points or whatever. And then when you get to
Hmm.
200, it's $2 off. But I spun today and I got 50 cents. I was like, hell yeah, I'm on fire. So it's if you I figured it out though, if you did spin every day, if you could remember, that's at least $1.50 off if you get 5 cents every time and logging in. So it'll be $3 off your bill. It's pretty crazy. So
That's
it'll be like
cool.
22 a month. Yeah. I just gotta remember to do that gotta put reminders. But so
Just
yeah,
set the
Boost
notification.
Mobile, everybody.
It's an app or what?
Yeah, it's an app that comes with when you get Boost Mobile. It shows like your billing and everything on there.
That's
But I
cool.
haven't had any issues with it since I've had it. I mean, I had T-Mobile. I guess they use T-Mobile's uh,
Network.
network because when
Oh,
AT&T was having all those issues, I didn't have any.
Mm.
issues. I don't know if you heard about that, I guess, but I was at a wedding too, and the photographer I know, she works with our company actually, and her phone wasn't working for a while. But I guess AT&T had outage a couple weeks ago or a month ago or
I
whoever
heard
figured out.
about that.
Yeah, but I wasn't affected. Even though this phone that I bought, it was an unlocked phone, but
You bought.
it was a AT&T phone.
Mm.
So like when I restart it, it'll come up with the AT&T thing or whatever. But
Oh, funny.
anywho, yeah, crazy.
Um,
Rob
let's
Skiba, that's
see.
weird that he died. Isn't it so crazy?
Yeah, it is odd because he was the type to say that he wasn't going to do something like that. He wasn't going to go into the medical institution and stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe he got spooked. Maybe he couldn't breathe so badly that he was like, I don't know what to do. Take me. I don't know. And being on a vent like that over time, it's
Yeah, no,
not
not at all.
good.
Even like after a day, yeah.
Not good. So, unfortunately, that's what happened. So, I actually, it's funny because interesting because I've been wanting to look at whatever happened to his show that he wanted to do with the Solomon Islands thing. So, maybe I'll look that up.
Maybe he was getting too close to the Solomon Islands, and they're like,
Hey, I don't know, right? Oh, it's his website was called seedtheseries.com. SEED. He wanted to call it Seed.
I wonder if that's when things like that happen, if it's even real, or the people like fake their deaths or something.
Who
Didn't you know
knows?
people that knew him though? Didn't you or something? Or didn't we talk to somebody that knew him or something?
Yeah, like I used to be on Zen's little chat group and Zen Garcia, and Zen Garcia knew him, and I knew you knew some other people who knew him. Um but I didn't personally know him.
Hmm, that's crazy.
Amberson says his wife told the whole story in a book. I feel like I recently heard that she had a book out. Um, Amberson says he was essentially kidnapped by the hospital despite having medical bracelets and all. Wow.
Yep,
So,
that
yeah.
is nuts.
But
We were talking about that a little bit yesterday, because when I was in the live chat, I think, yes, in the live chat. So everybody, I've been doing the Brandon Bonanza show again, so go check that out. And oh, next week, next Thursday, there's going to be a special episode because over Sharon is taking a week off. So I recorded a Brandon Bonanza episode with our friend Joe P and our mutual friend Jeff, who, if you want to see who Jeff is, ZZJF, go check out under the Brandon Bonanza playlist. We did a live yesterday, talked about Dune. Sorry, not a live. We premiered a show yesterday. I was live Tuesday with Quentin, though. Check that out, Quentin Farrell. That was fun. And somebody had asked me because we were talking about my getting married and stuff, and somebody had asked me, maybe it was in the show with Quentin. If he's in here, he could tell me. I get so confused. This is like my third or fourth recording this week. um, oh yeah, Benito. Brandon looks like a young Gandalf, but sounds like a wedding DJ. I am a wedding DJ, Benito. Unless you knew that, that's hilarious. And we
who
just had
is
Gandalf.
Benito? Benito, tell us how you found us,
Yeah,
please.
how'd you find this, Benito? So anyway, people were asking me if I plan because I was talking about getting married, and they said, "Do you plan on getting legally married?" And I brought up what Ben Balderson was telling me about, which is like things like the legal system if you have to
You
deal with
do
it.
what you got to do, you know? You
Yeah,
just
sometimes it's better to be legally married because if someone ends up in hospital or whatever, you're their spouse, so you can go in there. Or I mean, who knows what other situations like with property and stuff. But why did I bring that up? I don't remember now. What were we talking about?
the medical stuff with
Yeah,
Rob
maybe it
Skiba.
was. But that's one of the reasons why, yeah, it's like, oh, that's what it was because I was saying how it's a good thing because you know how legally they could say you're insane, like very easily they could just say, oh, this person's insane. So if that does happen, at least you have somebody in your corner that isn't technically insane, that's legally connected to you, that could speak for you. So the guy
Robo's
with the big nose like that, I like that fella. Yeah, that was the dude. He's going to be, so next Thursday we're going to premiere that episode. He'll be in it. He doesn't have the nose on that episode though, so you get to see
oh
what his face looks like.
oh, he
Yeah,
was just being silly on yours.
yeah. I'm not exactly sure. I think he was trying to hide his identity a little bit. Maybe he said him
Yeah,
and a bunch of friends have him, and it's like a joke they do because they talk about a lot of stuff that's like anti-establishment kind of. So
right, right,
yeah.
yeah. Robo is saying the Army, Mormons, French Foreign Legion all use
Oh
immersion training to rapidly teach language. I find it's more effective uh, for me. And he says it's free also. I'm just asking, if there's an app or how do we get a hold of that? If he could send a link, that'd be great. I will check it out.
yeah. Oh, so he means the Army, the Mormons, and the French Foreign Legion is probably what he means.
I
Immersion
guess.
training.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's how I learned
Oh, it's
Italian
a
was.
YouTube channel. Okay, perfect.
Oh, it's a YouTube channel. Haha.
Sweet.
Sweet. Yeah, it's what was I gonna say? I learned it when I was in Italy, I learned more just by being there and talking to
Mm.
people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. John Chase says, I swore I heard of that Dyatlov Pass incident in a documentary. They have a series on Prime called Yeti Massacre about it.
Whoa.
Ooh, interesting.
Just a bunch of people with big coffee mugs, travel mugs.
Those Yeti
Yeah, yeah.
travel
The
mugs are cool.
coolers. There's a bunch
They
of coolers
they're
all over the place.
they're stopping the ability for people to look up stories about Yeti,
Oh, I can
right?
imagine, right? Yeah, yeah. Because if you put in Yeti, you're gonna get
You're gonna get mugs.
advertisements for mugs. Yeah, it's crazy how information hides in plain sight like that with these
Mm-hmm.
search engines. And the people will talk about how it's so nefarious and all this stuff, but it's like, yeah, I mean, it could be, but it really just runs on greed because once Google started giving you the ability
Ads and
to,
stuff.
yeah, ads, and also giving you the ability where you could place
Exactly.
on their search listings depending on different metrics and a lot of it,
Depending on how much money you give them.
exactly. And not all the time though do you have to actually directly give them money, but it's kind of like there's barriers to people because some of these corporations have so much money that they can just hire a team to cover the analytics and nail it down perfectly and all this stuff, you know what I'm saying? But to like people like the Oversharon show, not that we care about analytics, but we don't, it's like we would have to invest our own time and try to do all this stuff to do that. So it's like another barrier of entrance. But yeah, you search Yeti and you just get like all these people holding coolers and coffee mugs.
NB Austin says hikers got lost in the snow and the whole group died. But when they were found, they detected radiation on them and found blunt force trauma. Wild story. That's the Dyatlov Pass, I'm guessing.
But I also heard that they had information on Hillary Clinton too, though. So the hikers, they had they had the documents, the secret documents. So they disappeared. That's the story I'm talking to. Yeah, that's crazy. Ooh,
Benito says
Russia.
his first language is English and he's tried learning or he's wanted to learn another language and he tried and Russian came easiest, I guess, which that's interesting.
Brandon should go full cousin it.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's funny. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Just grow my hair out there, Chris QSB. Just grow it out and live in it. It'd be
Live
great.
in
It,
it.
it was natural clothing. Like, they say how it's better to wear wool or linen because of the vibration. What if I was just wearing my hair? I mean, it would be, look at this hair. I could probably if I grew my hair out long enough, I could probably Airbnb it and have people stay in it. That sounds weird, but next to me, not, I don't mean I'm going to be hooking up with them. Stay a night in Brandon's hair. All right. We're going way down the hole. It's what happens when you have like a comedian mind. I always look for like the craziest extreme that people wouldn't expect to say and then
Have
say
you
it.
ever tried braiding it?
Hillary Clinton
And
was in Russia at the time where it happened. See, exactly. Nick gets it.
he
I
says
yeah,
cackling wildly. I
yeah.
was I wasn't sure if he was kidding until he wrote that.
Well, I figured it was. I was thinking of somebody, but Hillary Clinton seems to be the one that people always disappear when people have information, or it's very well known. Legendary. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yeah, a squirrel in my hair, that'd be cool. Or there's a meme that I have, or a picture somewhere. It's a meme, but it's of this old guy, and he has a huge beard, and there's a cat living in it. I guess he was a captain, a ship captain or something, and he had cats living in his beard, or that would hang out in his beard.
That's
That's
funny.
hilarious.
I thought it might be past life stuff. Would love to hear a Russian speak Spanish,
Ah,
Benito says. Hmm. Yeah, that's
yeah.
interesting
I
about
got to
past
jump
life
on
stuff.
that train because I'm already close enough. I was at the chiropractor that we go to speak Spanish, and he was talking to somebody else, and I could pretty much understand what he was saying. I was waiting to see. I mean, he's a really cool dude. I don't think they would ever say something, but whenever I hear, and this is something I was taught, it was a really good like sales technique, even, or if you're just around people who are speaking another language and you want them to stop it, if you could pick out a few words that they say, and then you're just like, oh yeah, the store, or like if they say la tienda, you're like, oh yeah, the store at the store, even if you tell them you don't, they're just like, oh, and then they just will not do that anymore, Freddie, because they don't know how much you know and how much you don't know. It's like their code has been broken.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's
Oh.
why. But I didn't. It's funny because he said something to one of the clients because I guess they have a chiropractor. He's there on like Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And he has another guy fill in, but the guy doesn't speak Spanish. So he was telling those people if they want to come in, he wasn't going to be there on a Wednesday or whatever. So he was telling them that, but I couldn't exactly tell. And then he said it to us. And I was like, oh, that's what he was saying. He wasn't going to be there Wednesday because I remember he was saying something about the guy being there. So anyway, I was like, I know enough where I should uh, use it
You'll
fluently. And then
pick it
we
up.
can speak Spanish to each other.
Si
Ay, ay,
quieres.
ay. Ay, caramba. No, just kidding.
Did you hear what I said?
What would you say?
Si quieres.
Si quieres, if you want.
Yeah.
Ah, see? Yo quiero Taco Bell. No,
Yeah.
no quiero.
I
Tenemos
think
una
you need a
fiesta a la
bigger
playa.
box.
Huh?
I think you need a bigger box.
Yeah, yeah. My favorite thing to say in Spanish, I would always say is "Tenemos una fiesta a la playa." A la playa. Let's have a party at the
In
beach. En la playa.
oh,
En la playa.
well, tenemos una fiesta en la playa means we have a party
Oh.
at the beach.
How do
Like
we
you
say
already
let's have
have
a
it.
party?
Um,
Would
how do
it
we
be the
say
same way
let's?
but just inflection or no?
No, tengamos. Let's have.
Oh,
Tengamos
tengamos.
una. Yeah.
Tengamos una fiesta. Ah, all
Yeah.
right. I've been saying it wrong this whole time. Well, I just been telling people we have a party at the beach instead of
Yeah.
let's close enough. We have a beach party. They're like, Brandon, we're in Arizona. Where's your beach party? Like, because I just would say it to people everywhere I went. Like, don't worry, guys. There will be a beach here soon. No, that's cool. I like that Bigfoot thing though, or that Sasquatch thing is so it could be so many things. It's like,
Yeah. And it's fun to speculate. And like I find that the people that um host these podcasts and whatnot, they're pretty open. They're, because they have to be open-minded because they're listening to people's stories. So um I mean, I don't think they have things figured out either. I mean, because why would they? They're
yeah.
every story is so unique. And like you got it, you think you have them figured out, and then something else, they like SpongeBob comes up, and you're like, okay, that was, I never would have thought, you know.
So funny. Yeah, that's cool that they're probably pretty open. Good talk to them. Be like, Bigfoot. Yeah, that's crazy. What about the moon? Did you ever look into that? Or I would even say to somebody like that, if, for some reason, if they end up watching and hear my voice, my lovely wedding DJ voice, DJ Brandoff,
Hmm.
you know, some of those people maybe they have more of a materialistic view of the world, and I would just say to them, think outside the box. You're not even a material thing, you person who's listening to this. If you take a microscope and zoom in, you're just going to see particles moving. We're just energy. What the hell's that all about? So maybe the Bigfoot creatures, Yetis, or whatever, are similar to us, but they have some kind of, maybe it's an instinctual thing, or they just have another power. And maybe we could do it too. We just are at a lower state or something. We haven't figured it out, but I would say that that's quite plausible. Plausible.
Well, we have a question from Benito in the chat. I would love to hear some of Sharon and Brandon's thoughts on the upcoming eclipse. Brandon, would you like to take that?
Oh yeah, that's so. We have a friend that is pretty hardcore into. He's actually traveling to Texas, I believe, to witness. No, where's it?
Missouri.
Missouri. He's traveling to the great state of Missouri. He's going to the show me state. He's like, show me. That's hilarious. And he has some uh pretty different ideas about what the eclipses might be and stuff concerning portals. And maybe it's like a portal. But if I back up the whole question, first I have to ask myself, what is the sun, right? And I really don't know what the sun is. Some people think it's local to each person, that they experience it in a certain way. Um, some people think it might be some kind of reflection off of a dome, or just kind of some energy source we don't understand. So I don't go by the whole thing of celestial bodies in the sky where there's a moon that covers the sun. I The way that I look at that is the same way when people talk about people who are like not as advanced of a culture, and they would try to explain like thunder and lightning, or how my parents would say when I was young and I'd get scared of the thunder, they'd be like, "Oh, it's just God bowling." That's what that was the thing that people used to say to us all the time. I think saying that there's like actual physical celestial bodies and one gets in front of the other one, I think that's sort of like a more advanced way of saying that God's bowling, when you hear thunder or whatever. I think it's just a function of the way this realm works with energy, and kind of like a battery with a negative and the positive. And I mean, other than that, I really don't know. What do you think, Sharon? You weigh in on this a little bit.
Oh, again, we're speculating on so many things. I don't know what it is either. Um, but I am traveling to go see it, and I'm the one, well, Cody and I are going to be in Texas. And we may, I figured out who I think Benito is. And so we might get to see Benito and say hi.
Oh,
Yeah.
welcome, Benito. Dissident Jones, agree with Benito. Crow's last show cautions against looking at it. Lock up your family indoors and fast for a day before and after, and tape the window seams.
Wait,
I plan to gaze it.
wait. First of all, they're saying not to look at it. I would think that they're the ones to say look at it. Wait, what? Start all
That's
over
what I'm
again.
saying. Crow. Yeah, I don't. That's what he's saying. I don't know. Maybe we should listen to that episode. But yeah, Blue. I tend to
That
do the
sounds
exact opposite
ridiculous
of
to
what
me.
other people are doing.
That sounds like Old Testament to me.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like, oh, it's Passover. Lock up your families in the house because the angel of death is passing over. Excuse me? No, I don't think so. That
Well,
sounds
think
crazy as
about the
hell.
dream. So if we go back to the episode we did with Nick, aka Woodshop, um, he talked about that dream that he had where he would have to like his whole family would have to go inside and not look outside or go inside or whatever, not look outside or put their heads down when this evil entity went by. He had this recurring dream. And then finally, when he was later, he finally just looked and there was nothing there. And he
Exactly.
never had the dream again, right? It's
Exactly.
you know what I'm going to be doing for the eclipse, guys? Probably I'll forget about it and I'll be doing my normal thing. And then Sharon will be like, "Did you see the eclipse?" Or I think we might have a partial viewing here in Connecticut. So it'll probably get dim here a little bit, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, the eclipse is going on." And then, I mean, whatever happens, happens, dude. You know, like
Yeah.
that's what I tell people. If I'm
If
gonna die,
God wanted me to go that way, then that's how God wanted me to go.
yeah. And it again, we've said this before, but I haven't said this in a while. But it is easy for me to say things like that because I don't have like children and stuff. You know, I do have a fiance that I love.
But you
Uh,
know what? If God
but
wanted you to go that way, then God wanted you to experience that, or your children to experience that.
100%. Just like I
Yeah,
said,
I'm not trying to be like unfeeling, but I think ENTJs tend to be looked at as that way.
well, yeah, and you're talking then maybe that's what we could shift gears into talk about really quick too before we wrap up this episode. But yeah, as an INTP, I have all this apathy I could just dial up, and I'm glad that people are looking into it, and I'm really excited that our friend Adam is going to check it out. In and other people have different feelings than they think, or they have ideas of what it could be, and hey, maybe they're right. But my life hasn't led me to that path,
Mm-hmm.
so I think for me it'll be different. And if it's
Yeah.
my time to
Like
go, it's
I,
my time to go, right?
yeah. And I wasn't even planning on going. It just one day, for whatever reason, um, it was funny because I was talking to Benito and he mentioned something about it. And then I was like, wait, can I go to this thing? And it's like Cody's dad lives in San Antonio. And I'm like, we could just go over there and it'd be right there. We're there. So I was like, okay, this sounds like it could happen.
Zerla said we could drive to Buffalo and see it with Berserker Bear. It's passing over upstates. Okay, so
Okay.
it's. I guess I could look and see what the closest.
Benito says the last one was amazing. Can't wait for this one. The feeling you get when the shadow covers everything.
Yeah, I would tend to believe that it's more like some kind of warning, maybe a warning or something to do with like a clock or a timepiece. You know, if you think of like a la the Phoenix phenomenon with the whole archaic
Warning of a future reset or
event
something like that.
or something. Yeah, maybe I mean maybe it is the event itself. Maybe some stuff will happen, but I think the sky darkens like that to try to like let us know that time's running out, or get your shit right, or and really what I mean by get your shit right is to just have no fear, literally. You know,
Exactly.
I like
Don't
what
lock yourself up in a house
yeah.
just so
Well,
you can't see it.
if you're feeling compelled to being locked up and not looking at it, then do that. Don't listen
Then
to
do
us
that.
about
Well,
doing.
yeah, right. But
Do your
what we're
thing, but
saying is that
we're not going to tell people to go do that. Yeah,
yeah, I'm
do
not
your
telling you
thing.
to go look at it. I'm not telling you to not look at it. I'm just telling you to do what you think is best for you.
Yeah,
But me, I'm gonna go look at it.
yeah. But me
And
and mine, we're going to look.
what's funny is as I was talking to Benito the other day, he said that there was this event that NASA is um sponsoring or whatever, hosting or whatever. They chose 3 locations in the States to like film or whatever. And it's really close to where it's close to San Antonio and close to where Benito lives. So
Blue said, "Don't pour your liquor out."
you can look but don't touch.
Yeah, that's funny you said that, Kirk, because I was gonna say that. I'm gonna look and I'm gonna try to touch it. Listen,
Oh my
I'm a
god.
giant. I don't know if you know this, but I could touch the sky. I'll just listen to some Kanye West before he has a song called Touch the Sky.
Oh my god.
Um, what was the other thing I was gonna say? Oh, I think it was funny what Blue said. Wait until the day after the eclipse and you can get the eclipse half off like Valentine's Day candy. You can get stuff.
Amberson said she saw one in she saw the one in 2017 in Oregon, and it was really nifty. It was way before she was much awake to cosmology, but she didn't even have the glasses and she was just looking at it. It's fine.
Oh, was Amberson definitely a she, or was that a
Yeah, yeah,
he?
yeah, yeah. Mhm.
That's what it was like. I knew there's okay, all right, never mind. Sorry.
Yes.
Um,
Did we think
I
Amberson was a he at
misgendered
some point?
Amberson. I'm just kidding. What were you gonna say?
I was like, did we ever think Amberson was a he? I think it was the MS. There's an
Oh,
account
maybe it
that's
was.
MS that we thought was a she and is actually a he.
Oh, okay, maybe that's what it was.
What's really
What?
cool about seeing the eclipse, because the most recent solar eclipse that happened here um in Phoenix, it wasn't, you didn't see the full one, but you could see a partial, and you could see these little half moons, like slivers of a moon, as the shadow, not shadows, but as the light, as it passed through, like let's say there were trees, and then you would like see the light passing through the branches, and like
Ah,
when it, and on the floor you would see all these little like moons, because it wasn't a full solar where I
there
was
we are,
seeing
back
it.
to the moon thing, right?
Yeah, and it was looking like little moons, little half moons. Interesting, huh?
Yeah. When is it supposed to be? What's the date?
April
April.
8th. It's a Monday.
Oh, April 8th already. I thought
Yeah.
cool. What do I got on my schedule? I got nothing. I'll put eclipse in there so I know, and then I'll look into it. Eclipse. Cool.
This,
I
yeah, Dissident Jones says this one's path is a mirror of the 2017 one. Yeah, because the 2017 one, I don't know how this is going to show up on the other side, but like it came down from Oregon this way. And then
mhm.
this one's coming from like in the New York direction and down toward the southwest.
Isn't it supposed to go through like seven Salems, right?
Yeah, allegedly, I didn't really go into validate if that's true, but the 2017 one went through like seven Salems in
Seven
whatever.
towns named Salem in
Yeah,
the United States.
in
Yeah.
different states. And then this one allegedly goes through more Salems as well.
Well, if it goes through Salem, Mass, then I should have to be able to see it because I'm far enough north in Connecticut. I'm gonna have to look into this, so maybe I will
Yeah.
see it before
Zerlas
we get.
said where he thinks it's, yeah, just I have a link. I'll find it and send it.
And Zerlath is also way south of me. Well, not way, but at least like an hour or so. So maybe if I just go an hour north or something.
Yeah, you can look at the path. I'll find the link. If I can find it in time, I will.
Maybe I'll find a casino up there. I could go play a poker tournament, and then I can also go look at the moon or
Yeah,
the eclipse.
let's
Eclipse
see
break.
if I can
I've
find
seen
the link.
partial eclipses before and like moon eclipses and stuff, but I think in this area, maybe in the early 80s or sometime in the 80s, there was a full eclipse because I remember, I don't know, them talking about it and maybe us going outside, but I was really young. So,
I sent the link into the chat
yeah,
for
some say
where
water
you can.
reflections. It was amazing. That's what I'm thinking. Like you hear of the waters above, the waters below, as above, so below. I mean, oh, what's up, paraplegic? Just saying hello. Too busy to chat. I'm swamped. Hope everyone is good. Yes, we are good. Thank you,
Yeah,
paraplegic.
it's going through,
You want to
like
pull
he
it up?
said, it's going through the upper part of New York.
Do you want to pull it up on the old share?
Oh, yeah, I can do that. Hold on.
We're gonna overshare. I still have an excellent connection. I got to give a shout out to this thing. I should put the link to this little. I got this little antenna for my laptop. I had to get one of these
Yeah, shout it out real quick.
just so everybody knows. I had to get one of these little because it's a regular USB, so it plugs into this, and then this part because I have a MacBook, it only has USB C. Yeah, what the heck is the thing called? Shout it out. Let me see. I think the box is right over here. I kept the boxes.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen.
It came with a. It's definitely old school. It came with a CD. Oh, here we go.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so so there's San Antonio, right? And if we
It's going
move,
through Arkansas.
yeah, see, you're
So it's not gonna hit. It's not gonna hit Salem,
you're
Massachusetts. Then
you're right here.
yeah, Buffalo. But see how far Buffalo is from me because it's all way over there.
Yeah, upstate.
But Vermont, because so I'm between where I'm basically under the A, under where the ass in Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Oh, you're
down
right here?
maybe down though, yeah, right about there is probably where we are.
Okay.
I could see your finger over me. No, look, I can look out the window and there's a giant eclipse going on now. It's a
Oh
cursor.
my God.
Oh, 12. Okay. If you click on
Oh,
it, does it
there we
say,
go.
does it show you what you'll see?
Oh, um, where'd I go? Let's see. I think if you zoom in, for example, like where I was, where I originally set it to look, which was in Texas. Everything's big in Texas.
Texas. All my
So,
exes live in Texas.
okay, so this is San Antonio. It's not quite in the like path of like total. You have to go a little bit west. So as you can see, this is the path of the
Northwest.
total. So you just have to travel up a little bit somewhere, from either this way or this way, which we're going to probably be traveling up this way a little. And then anywhere. So here in this part, it's going to be 4 minutes and something. And then
Uh,
uh, as you go out, it's a little bit less. So like maybe 2 minutes, maybe somewhere out here of the full total. I feel like I was looking at a different map when because it looks different than what I remember. Like I guess if you click on a city. Yes, okay. So if you click on San Antonio, it tells you when the partial begins,
all
when the
right.
maximum happens, when the partial ends. But they're only getting partial, right? So like if let me scooch over, let me zoom in. And let's say we go here. Here, there's a full that starts at 132
Oh,
and ends at 136. And like the closer you get, like here, this is where Caraville, this is where NASA's hosting that thing, that event. So there'll be like all kinds of activities going on. And they'll probably have a big screen or something. I have no idea. I don't know if we'll go. I was just
very
a,
interesting.
a thought, but yeah, so theirs goes from 1:32 to 1:36 p.m.
All right.
So, yep,
Interesting.
indeed.
Um, yeah, well, we've been going for what, almost 2 hours now? I could tell
Yeah,
exactly because we're
almost two.
148:44 when I looked. Well, yeah, we could kind of wrap up on it, I guess, because we're going to be doing more shows about personality types, Myers-Briggs and stuff. And I know we talked about this on that show, but I just wanted to bring up again to reiterate. I think that the reason or the reasons that we're interested in Myers-Briggs, and I think one of the best things it could be used for, because like any tool, it could be used for a lot of things. We talked about how, you can learn this to scam people if you wanted to. But I think it really is to apply it to ourselves to show where we have work to do and where we have to grow and become a better person. Because according to some people with this Myers-Briggs, there's four sides of the mind. So like I'm an INTP, so that's basically like my ego. That's the side I'm going to use the most. And I have like a shadow side, unconscious, and then like demon or whatever, right? Is that how it goes? Well, there's different. Tune into our next episode for more on that. But I feel like because what made me think of this was how a lot of people say how they used to be one type and now they're another type. And I feel like I really feel like you only have one type that you are or whatever. You have this because I feel like the Myers-Briggs is like an operating system. So whatever your type is, that's how you see the world. And I feel like the more you grow up or work that you do on yourself, you start to express other sides of your mind more. And I think that's kind of what we're here for. It reminds me of in astrology how you have the sun sign, the moon sign, the rising sign, and how people say like maybe your rising sign was what your sign was in your last life, stuff like that. So it really makes me think that this is the work that we have to do. And in my own life, I know that as an INTP, as an introvert, getting out of my comfort zone, getting up and talking in front of people, DJing, then doing comedy and all this stuff, doing podcasts really has helped me grow and get out of my comfort zone. So now people wouldn't even realize that I'm an introvert, uh, just by seeing me perform or whatever. So I think that that's why we look into this stuff and that's why it's really important. And again, also to get along with other people better, which helps in your own self evolution, right? Because I think a lot of people, when they get into that or they look into it, there's a lot of different division or conflict because of that. People want to think that they know a subject and know it fully and totally. And I know everything about this. So that's when the fights start, right? The division and the disagreement. But I think if
Mm,
in this lens, and that's how we plan on using it here for Sharon to get to know ourselves better and the people around us so we can interact and have a better life. But I think that's the reason why anybody should look into that. And that's why you should check out our show that we do that are and our upcoming shows on it. But
yeah.
remember, everybody.
Benito says,
Oh, I
go
was just
ahead.
saying next week it's going to be a Brandon Bonanza Thursday. We're going to be filling in for Sharon. Sharon's going to be
In
going out
Sedona
to
with
buy all
Spoons and
her
Michelle.
huh? No,
In Sedona with Spoons and Michelle.
no, I know, but I was saying that Sharon's running out and getting all her she's going to be running out that day and getting all her eclipse supplies.
All my crystals. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's
I'm
another way to
kidding.
do it.
I'm kidding.
Right?
Um, I might want to hit a vortex while I'm up there because I don't think we did when we were there in
Do you know where one
2022.
is?
And I've heard that there are some, and I have to look some up. But yeah, I think there's
I'm
some
down
on
there.
Bell Rock. Hmm?
Next time I go, I'm down. Totally
Yeah.
down. There was
Yeah.
that video too that you sent me where the guy went to that spot and then he went back up and around. Maybe you didn't send it, but that was in Sedona and he saw this look like stairs and like
I sent that to you. That was insane. We should try to hit that one. But I don't know if it's probably a little complicated. So maybe that'll be another trip. But yeah, that one was insane. I think I saved it. I hope I did. Um, but I was just gonna say, Benito said, I don't see you that way, Brandon. And I was going to say that there are some misconceptions sometimes about the words introvert and extrovert. And the more I look into it, it's not so much about whether you're out there being social with people or not. It's about it's a little more nuanced than that. Um, yes, there's some level of that to some people who are extroverted of going out and being social, but it's more of it's more about your mental processes, whether your mental processes are introverted, where you go in, or whether they're extroverted, where you look at the outside world with it. Um, and again, I'm no expert. I'm just looking into it. So there's
It's
probably
also,
more to it than just that, but
yeah, 100%. And it's also what you prefer to do. All the functions are basically what is it's easier for you to do or what you prefer to do. In the way that I'll say that I know I'm an introvert is a few different ways, but growing up, I always would have a best friend. Like I had a really good friend. And then whenever they wanted, I would always want to just hang out with them and do things. And
mm-hmm,
that person, I mean, I had different, whatever, guess, best friends that were guys, but I noticed that they were probably mostly extroverts because they would always want to hang out with other people too. Like we would hang out a
mm-hmm.
lot, whatever, but then they'd always be wanting to include other people in it. And that made me think of it because they say that two's company and three's a crowd. So if you're an introvert, you could still hang out with one other person and you're not really expending energy. But when you're in a crowd or, with more than one person, you are to a certain extent expending your energy. Um, and a great example of it is the concert we went to last night. Like as we're on the way driving there, I'm just like, I'd still be fine if we just went home. You know what I mean? Like I didn't say that, but that's the thing. The video, I don't know if Joe sent it or maybe you sent it to me, but it was a quick video about a guy just talking about introvert things. And he's like, don't worry if you ever cancel plans with an introvert. It's like, we don't care. Honestly,
That's hilarious as
we
hell.
don't
I
mind
saw
at all.
that. Oh my
It's
gosh.
funny because Elizabeth is also an introvert. And we've talked about that. It's like, I told her, I'm like, when plans cancel, I don't even care. She's like, I'm the same way. She's like, I want to go do things and I go do them. But if the plans cancel, I'm like, yes, this is great. Canceled
Yeah.
plans. Favorite thing.
It's funny because I feel like I'm that way now. I don't know that I was that way before because I feel like I had to uh learn to be compassionate for people and understand that things could happen and I wasn't the center of everything and if plans canceled, why couldn't I just be okay with that? So now I love when people cancel because I'm just like I can do more stuff. I can do other stuff. Like I don't care. Like I've learned to use that more. And one might think that now because of that now I'm an introvert. And what's interesting is that because I relate to some of the stuff you were talking about too, of like you could have just been like, "Oh, I'm cool just going home too. We don't have to go to this concert." Like I too would have been like, "Yeah, I don't care either way either." Um, but Joe sent this link about the way somebody had asked a question about difference between INTJs and ENTJs because some people can't really tell the difference sometimes and think that they might be an INTJ and they're really an ENTJ. And something that they said was totally it made me comprehend a little bit why I am the way I am. And I don't remember all the details of it, but it was basically saying that we're we're extroverted in a different way. It's not about like necessarily being social out there with people. Um, but it's because of the way we think. And sometimes people will annoy us because they're getting in the way or they're interrupting something that we feel is important that we're trying to get done. Because ENTJs are like, so like if I'm sitting here at my desk and I'm doing something and I'm super concentrated and I have my books open and I'm just like doing my thing, sometimes Cody will come in and just show me like a an Instagram or something and he'll chit chat and I'm just like I was in a mode like I was trying to do something. I was trying to figure this out and now I can't and now I have to wait till he's done and I have to listen to the story or I have to and I know it's very like that's how I am. It's just it's
Well, you know what that is, because that's so your shadow, whatever function is the INTP, right?
yes.
And I don't know if the term shadow function, because of all of the baggage that goes along with the word shadow, is actually correct to say it that way because people are going to get a different idea of what we mean, but I feel like that's the model that you're kind of working toward because you're trying to integrate, when Carl Jung talks about integrating your shadow,
Mhm.
it really is oh man, the Wheel of Time I is such a great series because that happens to a character. In the Wheel of Time, you have men and women so there's people that can channel in the Wheel of Time. Some people are born with this ability to channel and they can do like magic. They channel the true source or whatever. And men that do it in this time, in the time that the Wheel of Time is set in the third age, men that do it go insane, slowly go crazy. They start to hear this voice or whatever, or another person in their head. And it happens to the main character. And later on, uh he finds out he's like a reincarnation of this guy who was everybody knew who he was like way back when, like so he's the second coming of this guy. And at a certain point in the book, the voice goes away because he integrates it and he becomes that person and he becomes okay. And so he still has all the memories that that guy had, but it's like he's living this other life. And I feel like it's such a great metaphor for our everybody's challenge here on in this plane of existence is to kind of integrate that other shadow. So that's what you're doing. But some people will flip into that shadow. And, so it is kind of like a multiple personality, right? They'll go into that and then they become that person. And a great example of that is my friend. Maybe I shouldn't say his name, but I have a friend. Nobody really here knows who he is, but um, used to have a gambling issue. And so we would go play poker. I used to live at the casino. We'd go play poker a lot. And when he played poker, he was fine. He was like normal himself. And poker is more like a game of skill. It's not exactly gambling. There are, you could lose money. There is gambling involved, but it really depends on the person, right? And blackjack, however, yeah, you do have to like hit and stay and know when to do that, but it really comes down to odds, and the odds are always in the casino's favor. Even if it's like a 1% or a half a percent, it's a small percentage, but the odds are always in the casino's favor. And so anyway, he would go play blackjack and he turned into this other person once he lost a little bit of money or whatever it was. He would just become this other, and you couldn't even like talk to him. One time I had to pick him up and drag him away from the table. So that's an example of, we'll say, like an unhealthy way to shift into the other. But I think if there's a way to integrate it where that's just always who you are, right? And then you just, whatever personality type like would suit that situation best, you kind of flow into that. So I think that's what was going on, because what you're describing is me to a T. Whenever I get into something, or like for example, when I was writing my book, and when I started to write the second one a little bit, and I kind of get into this mode again. But once I get into that mode, I just like lock myself in a room. I was just like listening to Bach, just like writing like constantly, like. And when people came in, I'd have to like pause everything to, like you said, to talk to them. And I find myself getting to that. Sometimes I go into those, but it's not as
Because
extreme of a mode.
I'm your shadow too.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking,
It's
right?
it's
You
the other
can
thing.
relate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking, because with the INTP, you have the INTP shadow. Um, so that is hilarious how that works. And I find myself falling into that mode just a little bit at a time, because what happens is I create this whole world in my mind when I'm thinking of something. So it's like I'm not even really here. And that's why a lot of times I could get lost in different conversations or whatever, or I'll lose my place, when I'm talking during a podcast, because it's like I've described it before, but it's like I build this world in my mind and I'm going in there and I'm just describing it while I'm talking to people. That's what I'm actually doing. I'm describing this. So sometimes I'll go be in this world and I'll like take a right and then I'll forget where I was, uh, because the world is so just like, I don't know, alluring. It's so like, it's so intense, I just get caught up in it. I mean, it happens when I'm driving sometimes. If I'm thinking about something, or if I'm on the phone when I'm driving, I still am a great driver, but I'll drive through like a whole section of something and won't even remember doing it. I'll even like pass people and stuff, have like a vague recollection, but like I think I just drove here on autopilot. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, I had a moment like that yesterday, but it wasn't with driving. It was like I can't remember. It was something I was doing on the computer and I was like I just did that, but I don't remember. I have no recollection of actually having typed all of that or done all of that, or it's something like that. Like, that's so bizarre.
Yeah, so you were channeling your INTP or whatever function. But I really believe that's why I wanted to talk about the MBTI is because it's kind of like a blueprint for the work that you can do here or that you have to do or that you're actually responsible for. Because if you're not getting along with somebody, it doesn't mean it's their fault, you know. There's ways to if they do something that's annoying to you, there's ways to
Well,
overcome
it's not that they're annoying. It's that you're being annoyed and you have no reason to be annoyed really, because you
in
could
that.
set boundaries and say,
Yeah.
listen, I'm doing something right now. Unless it's an absolute emergency, don't bother me. But I don't. I just do my stuff and I don't let him know that I'm busy. And so, he doesn't know any better. He's just gonna walk in and show me something funny or talk to me and tell me some story or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He's thinking of you, you know, and he wanted to share
Yeah.
something with you, so it's actually kind of sweet, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So you
And
you saying something about um like when you're talking about ascending signs and stuff like that and talking about one of those could have been your past life or whatever. I'm like, oh, so could our shadow be our past life? could, could we be integrating our shadow because it was a past life or something?
oh yeah, maybe. Could be.
Our most
In
recent.
whatever. Yeah, because it's like the opposite of our main function or our main
It's
whatever.
kind of like an opposite. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it takes
Like
each
an inversion
cognitive,
almost.
yeah, it's like an inversion of each cognitive function. It's inverting the introvert versus extrovert. So it makes you try to see it the other way, the other perspective. So if like I am allegedly TE, um, lead position on the stack. So that means the the fifth position, which is the first one of the shadow, is going to be TI. So, and we'll talk about that more, but there's all these names that they use to categorize. So you have like the hero and the demon function and the savior function and all these other names. So, but we'll talk about that.
The really cool thing about it is though it highlights the differences just in communication between people and how much they misunderstand each other. And one of the things that I was listening to, I think Joe sent the video about the INTP and the INTJ and how there's extroverted thinking and introverted thinking, or that's what it's called, right? TI.
Yeah, introverted thinking is TI.
So the way that I have introverted thinking, so I will like list information for people, you know, I'll say things to people sometimes. And a lot of times I've noticed, and I never noticed it before, because what would happen was it would just seem like I wasn't getting along with this person. So maybe we just didn't become friends or whatever, or we just stay kind of away from each other. But when I'm having this interaction, or a good one is like my dad, it happens a lot when I would speak with my father, like we would have misunderstandings. And if I'm listing things, great examples, like yesterday we were standing in this one spot for the concert, and Elizabeth couldn't really see. She could kind of see, but since I'm a giant, we were in the back and I could see because it was a club and it's all flat, right? It's all the same. But we were kind of away from people against the wall in a good spot. So I told her, I'm like, you know, we can move, but this is a good spot. There's not a lot of people. And anywhere we move, we're not really going to be able to see the stage any better unless there's no one in front of us, unless we move into that crowd, which I know neither of us really were interested in getting to the crowd. Which
As
I've been.
introverts, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been in plenty of mosh pits in my time, and yeah, trust me. But you know, I just wanted to chill, and so in the music, it wasn't like mosh. No one's moshing anyway, but still. So I was telling her that, and then after that, I was like, you know, just so you know, if you want to try to find another position, we could do it. I was just telling you those things. That was the reason why I was staying there. This is the information I have right now. You know, we have a good spot. We're not getting pushed. We can kind of see it sounds good here, you know, but if you want to walk around and find another position, that's cool. Like I had to explain that to her. She thought I was defending myself and this is why we have to stay here because of all these reasons, you know? And I was just like, oh, no, no,
Yeah.
this is the information that I have. So I find that a lot of times I'll give people information and they think I'm
Because
arguing
you're an
with them.
information giver.
Exactly. Like I'm like, hey, did you know? So they'll think that I'm either arguing with them or, and it could be even on a subconscious level. They might not even realize consciously what's going on, but they get an uncomfortable feeling. And I feel like knowing this stuff and knowing how everybody acts in a different way, you don't even really have to memorize this
No,
and you don't
exactly.
really
Yeah,
have to be able to
exactly.
type people. If you just get a general
Hmm.
understanding of this stuff, it'll help you out so much in your own life because then you could realize when those situations are going on and you can explain yourself further. And this way, you're taking responsibility to make yourself better, a better person, and to
Be
make yourself
clear, be understood.
more
Yeah.
clear, more understood, more accepted by the people around you, and you're just going to have a better life. You know, it's like the capybara. That's one of the secrets to my capybara-ness, if you must know, everybody is I try to understand what the people are saying beyond their words. You know, like what just because they're saying these words, they have a picture in their head. This is something we talk about all the time. I have a picture in my head, and I'm trying to communicate it to Sharon to create a picture in her head, and all I have are these words.
And if they're vague, I'm going to have to ask questions because I ask questions.
Yeah, I love it. Sharon's like, "What did you mean by he?" You know,
Yeah.
what do you mean
Yeah.
exactly? What exactly did you mean by lisan al gaib?
Yeah. I contributed to your uh foray into being clear
100%.
and clarifying yourself,
Yeah, but first I had to
being
get to the place where I
okay.
wanted to, where I
Yeah.
was because previously in my life I would just get annoyed and I would
Yeah.
either like certain like most people I would just like ignore them or get away from them or whatever because I don't really like confrontation. But let me tell you one thing, I don't like confrontation, and neither does Bruce Banner, the Incredible Hulk guy. But if you get him to a certain point, it just happens. So I had to learn all that stuff. Now I have my little release valves. If I'm with somebody or a friend or whoever acquaintance or somebody I know, and whatever their behavior is, if it starts to get super annoying, I'll give them little warnings. Then I just step up those warnings because before it would just be like, cool guy, Brandon, cool. And then boom, Incredible Hulk. Like, so
Like we said in another episode, you are the one who's going to open the fridge and go, "Oh, we're out of milk." And
I'm informative.
that's all you're
Yeah.
going to do. You're
We're
not
out of
going to
milk.
say, "I guess we need to go to the store and get more milk." You're
Yeah.
just going to
Or
say, "Oh, we're out of milk."
we're out of milk. Informative. I'm not direct, which would be you need to go get milk or someone needs to go get milk. Like
Or
that's
I
the one
need to
thing.
go get milk.
Or yeah, the one thing that I have to work on is that stuff because I'm a version
And
that I have is I don't like to tell people what to do. Like I don't like to be in a position of management or on top of people or in front of people unless like if it's something where everybody knows what they're doing and it's gelling and it's working great. But if I have to like actually tell people, so a lot of times I'll work with new DJs and I'll train them and show them how to do stuff. And if I tell them how to do a thing a few times, and like, say, if I tell them, like, listen, don't be on your phone, or if you're on your phone, just keep it low here. So, not because, like, listen, you're the center of attention. It's cool that you're on your phone, but if you're just looking at your phone, everyone can see you doing that. But I don't like to keep telling people what to do. Like, if I'm working with someone and they're like constantly on their phone, like, I'm not the kind of person to be like, get off your phone. I'm just like, I guess we're going to see what happens. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I
I
just,
guess I wasn't one to like at where I used to work, I was told I was bossy because I was direct. So I'd just be like, well, this needs to be done. Okay, go grab that. Go do this. Go do that. It wasn't anything against anybody. I just was like, if I don't say it, nothing's going to get done. So it
exactly.
just needs to be said. No hard feelings. But when it came to like saying to somebody, oh, don't do that, I tried to be a lot like I couldn't just really do that either. I had to be gentle. I had to find ways to be uh careful and say something in a more maybe kind way. I don't know that not that I wasn't being kind, just that in a way that wasn't going to make them feel like really bad or anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you. I think that's natural, normal for a compassionate person who is also direct. But that just that difference between direct and informative is so huge because most people just assume that everyone else is like them. So if they're saying something, like if you were saying something previously, I'd be like, all right, this I would say, which I would do this if I was her because of that. So I'm now putting my own intentions to your behavior instead of yours. So now I try to come at situations like that with a blank slate, like I have no idea, and I'm trying to figure it out like it's a puzzle. Because if somebody is direct, they could just be like you're just trying to get the best done. You're trying to get everything done, and someone needs to do it. And you're like, all right, cool. This is where it goes. And that's how it flows when people are working in accordance with each other, like in a flow state. It just happens naturally. But the way that a lot of us are raised with different wounds and stuff in our pride, and uh, we often misunderstand these situations. So then we start to say like, oh, my boss is a jerk. Like that guy's an asshole because of this and that and this. I used to work with a DJ. He doesn't work with us anymore. He was an MC as well, which is like the person who can talk on the microphone and DJ and all that stuff. And then sometimes we'll just have DJs that only really play music and they don't do the wedding announcements and stuff. But so he was like that, the level that I was, the MC or whatever. So sometimes we would go on weddings together and he would be the MC and I'd be the DJ. So he'd do all the announcements and sometimes the other way around. And whenever I went on a job with him, and I was the MC and he was the DJ, he would get there and kind of like take charge of all this stuff. And I probably told you about this. I'm probably told the story a few times. And it would kind of annoy me. And then once I started to go through all this work with like self-healing and stuff, I started to use him as the tool he was. So once we got to a venue, he would
See,
act
your
like,
ENTJ kicked in.
yeah,
Use the
exactly.
resources.
Exactly. And I'm like, all right, if he wants to be the boss, he could go over there, talk to the person from the venue. He could tell everybody what to do. It's great. I sit back here, focus on what I have to say and everything. And, we set up the equipment. And I did this one wedding at a country club in Darien. But if you're from Connecticut, you say Darien. That's how we know it's spelled
Darien.
A-R.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Darien, and everyone says Darien. But if you're from in Zeralat, this one's for you because he works in Darien. So there's a lot of rich people there. But
We passed through there and stopped at at the flower shop where he worked.
oh yeah, that's right, that's right, yeah. So the country club there is like big time. I've never had a venue do this, but before the wedding, the coordinator invited me down for lunch and all this stuff like a couple weeks before to go over everything. But anywho, we get there and I'm with this guy's name is Justin, and he's just like running the whole show. It's great. I didn't have to deal with anybody. And as an introvert, I could just save my energy. So once the party got going and it was time to kick it off, I was like the one with the microphone. Everyone's looking at me like, who's this guy? I'm like, we're a team, man. We get it done. So just that little switch I made in my life made it so much better. So when I went to go work with him, I never had that feeling that I used to get about, oh, now I got to deal with this again. How's it going to go? We're going to butt heads or whatever. And yeah, so that made my life easier. I saved energy, less stress. So that's
Mm-hmm.
a reason why I think it's a good reason to look into this MBTI stuff.
Yeah. And the
Hmm.
next episode we do about it, it's gonna be like a review, but we're gonna have slides and we're gonna just show you the basics of, and it's gonna contain things that we've looked into from different perspectives, different people, and they all have contributed in many different ways. So um there are lots of theories out there, but we'll just stick to the basics for now, and that way you know the terminology, and when we say a word you'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And there's
And
lots of words. That's the funny part, is like everyone will try to call something differently, so I try to put that in there so you can have the visibility of knowing, oh, this is always, like, sometimes people call it a perceiving function, some people call it an observing, and I even found a new one. Some people call it a learning
uh,
functions, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a valuable tool to have in your toolkit just to know some of these or be familiar with some of this. I mean, it's worth a deep dive for anyone listening just to know your own type and to get that down. But from there on, I don't think that everyone should be able like you have to go take classes and figure out how to
Yeah,
like
no.
type people. Although that is a great skill to have. I mean, maybe one day I would love to do that. But what we're saying is just to know this stuff and be aware of it. It's gonna help you out in your life so much. Just like these little tricks when it comes to
Tidbits.
communicating and dealing with people. And maybe, hey, who knows, maybe you'll get along with your father better. I mean, I know I get along with my dad better because of this stuff now, because I realize that he's not having the same conversation that I am. Or you know what I mean? Like we're having
You have that picture of him in your head, and that's only your picture.
exactly. And it's up to, me and whoever else knows this to then work on it. I can't blame everyone else and be like, oh, it's just because that's your type and you got to learn it so you could be better. It's like, well, yeah, that would be great, but the responsibility is on me to at least know that I'm aware of this now and know it and apply it. Awesome.
Absolument.
All right.
I've been
Well, I think we
practicing my
could
French
probably,
too.
now that we've been going for over 2 hours, I love how we're like, we'll go live. It'll be like nice and short.
Ooh, two and a
No, I'm
half.
glad when we go live. And we still have 11, 10 people in here. Awesome.
We've been almost 2.5 hours.
Thank you guys for hanging out. Yeah, 220,
Yeah, we
220,
still
10
have
exactly.
10 people, or you said 11.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can
Thanks
wrap it up
everybody
then
for
unless there's else you
sticking
want.
around. Yeah.
Yes, and thanks everybody for sticking around. Go to morelawsmoreproblems.com. Morelawsmoreproblems.com. Click on the
Click on
over
the oversharing
tab.
tab.
That's right. Click on that oversharing tab. We'll get you down there hooked up real good. We'll get you some Y2K. You can go get some Eclipse food. Anyway, yes, there's several ways to support us monetarily there, but the best way to support us is to subscribe, click the bell, follow us, click the thumbs up, interact with us in the chats, leave comments. All that fun stuff is what we love to see. If you have anything you want us to talk about in the future, let us know. And like Sharon said, look forward for that episode that's coming out with Joe. And speaking of Joe, next week you're going to hear a great conversation between me, Joe, and Jeff. And Joe doesn't talk a whole lot. We get him to talk a little, but he's like, I felt like I was listening to a podcast. This is what Joe said. So if you like Joe P, then you're going to love this one because he's like, I just sat back and I felt like I was listening to a podcast most of the time because Jeff and I were both INTPs had a good conversation.
Mm.
So look for that. And yeah. Well, what do we say to the good people, Sharon?
That once you start oversharing,
Then you totally stop being a Karen.
that's right.
That's right. And before I say what I was going to say, I just want to give a shout out, one last shout out to the chat. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Sarah Lath, Robo Honky, Amberson, Gordy. We love to see you in there. What's up, Gordy? We should talk to him again soon. We could probably talk to him about all this Bigfoot stuff. He'd probably be interested in interdimensional things like that.
Yeah, I just
Kachina
messaged in the
Benito.
chat.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I just said I just messaged him in the chat that we talked about Sasquatch earlier.
Yeah. Nice. And shout out to everybody. If we didn't say her name, we apologize. Sarah Lath, I said his name right. And remember, everybody, we're not trying to tell you how to live.
But maybe we're giving you tips on how to live your life in a more peaceful way. Maybe.
Exactly. All right. Until next time, everybody. Peace.
Ciao. Arrivederci.
All right. And it's done.